Hello everyone, I'm Mark Suxford and I want to welcome you all to my new podcast called People Behind Brands, brought to you by Making Websites Better. Throughout the series, I'll be opening up my little black book of contacts where I'll be joined by an inspirational guest from the world of business, getting to the bottom of what made them so successful. In each episode, I'll be touching upon the highs and the lows that every professional has faced along the way. To never miss an episode, subscribe to our exclusive content now and follow us on our social media platforms. People Behind Brands. Life lessons from the world of business. Our latest guest, Nick Attwell, joins us for episode 26 as he touches upon his ever-growing law firm based in Colchester, Ipswich and London, specialising in conveyancing and property. People Behind Brands is a platform that gives our guests the freedom to express their personal stories. Nick rose to the occasion where he delves into how his hunger to build a well-respected firm came at a cost, with the breakdown of his marriage and a relationship with his 4 children being sacrificed. Nonetheless, the impact of the global pandemic has given him a new lease of life and has put things into a greater perspective as he reaffirms his priorities. So let's find out how Nick has laid the law down on his life to date. Nick, welcome to People Behind Brands. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very well. Thanks so much, Mark.
Good, excellent. So where can we find you today?
I'm here in Ipswich today, our main head office. So just here in my office here in Ipswich.
Excellent. So Nick is the founder and senior partner of Attwell's Solicitors, a highly regarded commercial lawyer. Nick has particular expertise around commercial property and land development. Nick also possesses a Master of Laws from Cambridge University and is a published academic author. Before forming Attwell's, Nick worked in London at one of the largest international law firms. That experience led him to front his own company with clients ranging from local SMEs to larger national clients. As a result, the company has grown further over the years, and he now oversees all 3 offices in Ipswich, where he is today, obviously, and Colchester and London. So, Nick, let's get amongst it and give our listeners more understanding about you. So talk to us about your working background at Attwell's and why you decided to start up your own firm.
Okay, yeah. So I was quite a reluctant founder, really. In that prior to Attwell's, I was a partner in another law firm, and I was there with my business mentor, who was about 20 years older than me.
Yeah.
And we built up quite a successful business there for about 5 years. And then sort of the relationship broke down, and he sort of was saying, well, you've either got to really take your bit of the business and sort of set your own business up, or, go off and join another firm.
Yeah.
And so I sort of, it was quite a difficult time because we were very close and good friends as well. And so you were sort of dealing partly with that personal sort of relationship breakdown in a way. And at the same time, sort of, with this thing of, well, did I really feel like I wanted to do it on my own? And I'm not really like a sort of, somebody who just enjoys doing things on my own in that way.
Yeah.
I like to do things as part of a team. So what I did was I sort of spoke to my 3 key people who are now business partners of mine in Attwell's, and they were working for me at the time in this previous business. And I sort of said, look, do you fancy doing this or not? And I sort of made my mind up that unless they all really wanted to do it, then I wouldn't do it. And they were like really excited. So then I was like, oh, okay, I better do it now then. So so I was a bit reluctant to get started, but that's sort of how it all came about, really.
Yeah, so I mean, there's obviously the drive there of sort of fronting your own business. But I mean, what would you say is your personal sort of drive in business and the achievements you are proud to share with us currently?
I mean, I think sort of my real sort of underlying passion is about sort of creating opportunities for people, for young people in particular, from non-traditional backgrounds, trying to give them the opportunity to sort of go as far and develop themselves as much as possible. I think if I hadn't been a lawyer, then maybe I'd have wanted to be a teacher or something like that. And I sort of get with Attwell's a bit of an outlet for some of that. One of my sort of life mentors was a teacher I had at high school, and he used to sort of teach the sort of us geeks, as I probably was at that day, some sort of non sort of normal stuff we did at school, some extra stuff after school on subjects that we never covered, like law. And that got me involved in law. And he also was very positive about a group of us about, well, you can go to Oxford or Cambridge, you are bright enough to get there. And that was something that just was way outside my sort of comprehension really at that time. And so I sort of feel like he did a great deal for me personally to develop me at that young age, and I sort of feel very much that that's something that I should give to young people now to try and develop them into young lawyers as best I can. And that's one of the sort of things that personally I get the most out of Attwell's, and I'm most sort of proud of, is like, you know, the young people that I brought through, trained up, they qualified with us as young lawyers, and you know, people who come from backgrounds that could never even imagine being lawyers. And that gives me a great deal of pride.
Yeah, definitely. So you've obviously got the team there, which I'll come on to a bit later on. But, you know, in terms of your clients, I think it's fair to say that they value a strategic approach to often complex legal principles. So how would you say Attwell's are different to other firms out there, whether that be locally or internationally?
I think, first of all, we're a specialist. So one of the things that took me a long time to find for Attwell's was, initially when I set Attwell's up, I wanted to be like every other law firm. And like, you know, we'd be a full service law firm. We do every sort of different discipline you can do. And I think it took me some years, you know, to really say, no, we must focus upon what we're really good at doing. And you know, what we're really good at doing is our niche is property law. So most of our clients are property people in some way. And we understand that subject area, and we understand those people really, really well.
Yeah.
So we do other stuff, but that's our main niche. So I think for property people coming to Attwell's, they'll get a depth of knowledge that they won't necessarily get anywhere else. On the service side, I like to think like we're not pretentious, you know, that we're made up because of the makeup of who we are, that we come from a diverse range of backgrounds, and therefore, you know, we don't ever talk down to people. I try to encourage people to talk in plain English, like not to try and use jargon, not to try and confuse people. But, you know, I sort of think, well, if you can't explain something to someone in a simple way, you don't understand it yourself. Yeah. So I think that's a very important sort of message for us, that, you know, we're trying to explain to our clients things in a simple way. Technology is big for us. So we want people to be able to instruct us online, so people can sit in their armchair and they can instruct us. I think that's a real huge part of the way the economy's gone generally. And it's important for us to be alongside that and able to do that. And that was one of the good things that came out of lockdown, was we built a new onboarding system to enable our clients to do that. And I think I try to feel that everyone who works for us and the whole firm is trying to get better every day.
Yeah.
So I'd always sort of say, anyone who's been with us for a period of time, they should always say, you know, this year was better than the year before. And it keeps going like that. And so I feel we're like a very progressive firm, whereas a lot of law firms in particular are quite conservative. They change very, very slowly. And we're not like that. We want to change. We change quite quickly.
Yeah, so I originally came across you through a member of your team and a good friend of mine, so Matt Desborough. He speaks incredibly highly of you and how the business operates. So how would you describe the team at your disposal and how they have helped the business obviously grow throughout that time?
Well, Matt's a top guy. He's been with me you know, a long while. He's someone that, again, we've sort of trained up, and you know, he's now sort of, you know, a fantastic commercial lawyer in his own right. So that's fantastic.
You're giving a big head now, aren't you?
Like I think the team is like everything. That's what it's all about, really. You know, it's not, you know, ultimately as a law firm, it's particularly what it's about, because we are selling the knowledge of our people and their service. Yeah. So, you know, we don't have anything else to sell. So, you know, it's got to be right. And I think, you know, right in terms of culture, we've got to have the right people in here who buy into our culture, that therefore can sort of, you know, deliver our legal service in a way that is different, that I've tried to describe, you know, so that it feels different to, you know, to our customers. Yeah, I mean, I just think, you know, and from a personal point of view, obviously our team are someone who've given me a great deal of pleasure in seeing them personally develop into lawyers and stuff as well. So, yeah, they're everything, really, the team.
As the founder of Attwell's, it's clear to see the company has grown massively and become a respected name in the industry. With that, there must have been some incredible challenges you've faced as a business. One of those, I'm sure, includes the impact of the global pandemic. I mean, just talk to us through that period and how you overcame particular challenges relating to the company or even your clients.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I think initially the lockdown was really scary. You know, at the moment when the Prime Minister told everyone to sort of pretty much go home, you know, certainly no one really knew what was in store. And, you know, I've been through the 2008 recession, And I think that gave me a little bit of sort of, it wasn't the same thing, and some of them were very different challenges that we faced, but there were some useful lessons that I could borrow from 2008, to reuse again here. The first challenge, I think, for us was technological. So we were at that crazy situation whereby we had paper files as lawyers and an electronic copy on our case management system. So we were duplicating it. And therefore, when we were told to go home, it was like, well, how are we going to do this when we've got these paper files? So the first challenge for us was to go fully electronic, which we did, and we've never come back from. And I actually think that if we hadn't had the pandemic, then we would never, well, we would have got there, but it would have taken us a lot longer to have got there. So that was a really great sort of change, but a real challenge initially to get everyone back at home, working in that way. So that was sort of the first thing. I think then we had this sort of period where it was very quiet. I don't know about for other businesses, but for us, everyone obviously sort of just went inwards and wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
And sort of you then just start to get a bit worried. You're like, well, what's it gonna all look like? I mean, financially we're quite conservative, so we have good cash reserves, we don't carry debt, and therefore we're not under immediate pressure. But you're still thinking, this can't go on for too much longer because you'll sort of everyone will run out of money. The furlough scheme was very important. I think it was a fantastic thing that the government did to bring that in. For us, we didn't use it for long, but for those first few months where we did need it, it made a huge difference. For us at that time. So I put a lot of credit to the government for what they did at that stage. I think then there was this whole sort of difficult bit about messaging and communicating with your team, because most of the team were at home and you weren't used to having most of your team at home, and you were suddenly like talking to people through a screen.
Yeah.
And and trying to get used to doing that was quite difficult. I think I had to try to use quite a different style of leadership in terms of, you really wanted one voice, and a very clear directional leadership at the beginning of the pandemic in particular. And sort of that was fine, but it's quite exhausting on me, because you're like constantly had to be very positive, very upbeat, very directional on a lot of change that was happening, government regulation or whatever it may be that you were trying to come to terms with. And then for us, we then had sort of the government on top of that. So then saying, okay, we're now going to make a stamp duty holiday. So as a property firm, which we are, that just, really sort of lit up and sort of supercharged, I suppose, the property market. And we then had the sort of challenge that, we just had huge volumes of work, and you were sort of trying to manage, obviously having got everyone back from furlough, but then you were also trying to manage them sort of working from home, and be really, really busy sort of property market. And at the same time, our work is still relatively paper based in that even though we were electronic, there are still paper documents that need to be signed. So the management of all of that was quite difficult. And so I think there was quite a period of the pandemic for us where we were sort of run off our feet, and just trying to cope with that with people in slightly different sort of working environments. I think it made us a lot kinder as a firm. I think starting to understand people's personal challenges a little more. We've had much more family-friendly policies that have come out of it. Our sickness policy is a load better since then. And I think we just support and understand each other a bit better. So I think that's been a really nice thing that's come out of it. And the mental health side, I think we've never really talked a lot about mental health at the firm before the pandemic. And I mean, I've had mental health struggles, but I've never really felt able to talk about them. And one of our ladies who worked in our administrative team, she just came forward to me and said, look, I've decided I want to be a mental health first aider. I want to try and get this embedded into the firm. I want people to be able to talk about it. We've got a lot of young people who who want to talk about these things. It's a big issue for. And I thought, well, this is fantastic. This is great. And in particular, great, because it's not like me coming up with it. It's someone from beneath saying, look, I've got this thing. I want to run with it. I'm like, well, that's great. And she's done a lot of good for the firm through the pandemic of just helping to support people, helping to find resources for people, and all of that. So, it's been a lot. There's been a lot of change and a lot to grapple with, but a lot of good stuff's come out of it too, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like there's been some challenges there, but also quite a lot of positivity that's sort of come out of that as well. And it's good to hear that obviously, you've introduced, mental health within your firm as well as a, support mechanism for that. So, it's kind of, keeping the team happy as well. That's been some of the sort of the main challenge of it all, I think, as well. We've kind of had that as well as a company. And I've spoken to other people, went to, various networking events, and they've kind of said like, what's the culture been like? How have you managed to deal with that, with people working from home and stuff like that. So it's all relative, and it's obviously how it's going to be going in the future. So but you obviously touched upon kind of mental health there, and how would you say that the pandemic affected you on a personal level, whether it be on a day-to-day basis or at home with the family?
Yeah, so I think initially there was a feeling of like sort of you're in the trenches, you're just going to work really hard and dig it out as a team. So you sort of like you just sort of really sort of up against it, and there was sort of like a lot of energy produced as a result of that. And I was sort of one of the few. We had to keep our Ipswich office as our head office was sort of kept open, in the sense that I had to come here each day. There wasn't really anyone. There was maybe one other person in the office.
Yeah.
And everyone else was pushed back home. We had to have somewhere where the documents could be dropped off. And that was sort of quite lonely, I suppose, in a way, because you were like coming in, there was like no one in town anywhere to be found.
Yeah.
And you were sort of just in there liaising, with people. And it was a much slower pace as well. So I sort of, in a way, that took me some time to adjust because I'm quite fast paced. And suddenly everything was going at a much more gradual pace. The good thing, though, I think, was it gave you more time to think. You could start doing a bit of strategic planning because you had the time to think. So like our onboarding system came out of it. So I think that was sort of the initial feelings. I think at the end of it, by now, as you sort of, you hope it's towards the end of it.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm really looking forward to Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like it's been a really hard slog. And I think most of the team would say we're absolutely knackered. And I think everyone's feeling like, our energy levels do need that break at Christmas, which is a great break for law firms because no one does anything and you can come back without the worry of loads of emails and whatever. Yeah. So I think, I'm feeling tired and like it's been a long few years. On a sort of from home point of view, I've got 4 kids and my youngest one, it was a lockdown baby, Arlo. So he was born during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so I was sort of getting home, and then I was sort of obviously helping my partner with him as well. And it's very tough on her because she was completely isolated, and also I wasn't there because I was in the office. So I was having to come when I was coming home. That's sort of the only contact that she was often getting. So I think that was pretty tough on her. I got into a bit of Joe Wicks, so I found his stuff really helpful. I quite like exercise. I find it quite a good sort of balance for mental health challenges and things.
Yeah.
And because I've like lots of people, I'm a busy person, I've got a busy family life as well. I needed something that I could just do in short bursts. And so I found his like HIIT sort of exercise thing really good. I mean, no, it's good isn't the right word because it's very hard going, particularly at my age. But I did actually think it was really good in a way to just go and do a half hour, bit of exercise and keep you on a sort of even keel mentally and things as well.
Yeah.
We had some really nice sort of family Zoom stuff as well. Like my brother and sister and my dad don't necessarily all live locally to me, and we were able to all get on Zoom. We were playing cards on a Saturday night together, and that was really nice. And that was stuff that we just never would have done otherwise.
Yeah.
So that was a really nice sort of way to catch up. And I sort of think I try to be like less demanding on myself. I'm quite a demanding person on my standards and what I expect of myself, and indeed for that matter of others as too. And I think I became a lot more relaxed about what I could achieve and just try to be more realistic about, try and take small steps, don't try and race along because now's not a time where you can really race. So I tried to do that. And then I did have a bit of a struggle with, I felt like I became a bit reclusive.
Yeah.
So then probably like other people as well. I struggled a bit, like to then come out again and socialise with people because I like meeting people. Yeah. But I just found it a bit awkward, and I couldn't really. My small talk had gone. Yeah. So I was really struggling at like that to begin with. So yeah, there's personally there's sort of all kinds of different challenges in there.
Yeah, I get that. I think a lot of people kind of felt that way, especially going back to the world of work, especially coming from, working at home and, whether he's working at home or whether he's on furlough or anything like that, being at home for a long period of time will affect your mental health in some way, shape or form. Because you essentially just basically get cabin fever, don't you? But yeah,
Yeah.
in terms of if the pandemic's shown us anything, it's to be grateful for what we all have, and something that I'm sure none of us will take for granted anymore is our family and loved ones. So what effect do the important people have in your life? Obviously you mentioned that your partner there and obviously your 4 kids. So, how much of an effect do they have on you?
I think that they're everything, to me, and I think it does. My first of all, sort of, I think my dad got COVID at the beginning of it, and that was quite scary.
Yeah.
And he's in his 70s, so I think there was sort of a realization there. I remember being quite upset about it all, surprisingly upset about it all, even though he was okay. But that he's got this thing, and it could have killed him.
Yeah.
And so it certainly makes you suddenly, it brings home how important these people are. I felt very much for like my partner, through it all. She's been very much on her own, and stuff because she'd had kids. Unless you've also got other family members or friends who have got kids of the same age, it can be quite a lonely experience anyway.
Yeah.
And with that plus the pandemic, not being able to get out, join kids groups, and get involved with other parents. That was really tough, really tough going, I think, for her. And then I've got sort of 2 older kids who are like 17 and 15, and they were having all the challenges of being at college or at school, and trying to do it all online, and it was all a bit rubbish. And also having to do, not being able to enjoy all their social side in that sense. So I felt a lot, for them as well. So I think, it makes you appreciate the people that you've got and the people closest to you, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. As I'm sure you're aware, having listened to our previous episodes, the aim of this podcast is to focus on some of the testing times that we all go through at some point along the way in our personal lives, so which can sometimes give people the drive to succeed. What would you say are some of the difficult personal challenges you have experienced, whether that be over your career or your personal life, that have made you who you are today?
Okay, if I sort of take it in like chronological order, like a lawyer, I guess, I'd sort of start when I was when I was 18. I applied to Cambridge University, and I got interviewed, and I didn't get in, and that was quite a challenge. And I went back, and my parents sort of said, "Well, of course you didn't get in." I remember sitting in the window with my dad saying, "Well, we don't get into these sort of places, son. That's not what you do." Yeah. And when I'd gone there, I'd got a lot of confidence from the experience of having gone. And gone for interview, because I sort of thought these guys aren't just a million miles away. And so I reapplied which is why I did my master's there, because I reapplied a master's level to go there, and I got in, and I was very sort of proud of that moment. And it sums up me sort of, I don't really give up on stuff, and also I try to be as brave as I can for myself, and try to do what I as much as I can. But it was quite a challenge at the time, sort of the rejection of it, your family sort of saying, well, of course you're not going to get in, so you sort of didn't know any backing there, and you sort of felt a little bit like, and then and so that was quite a challenge at the time. The next one, I think, was like when I was probably about 21, 22, and I went off to work for this international law firm. And I was one of the few kids there from state school, and I did not fit in culturally at all.
Yeah. And
I found it really hard. I just couldn't really understand, people properly there. I just didn't really. There wasn't really anyone like me there.
Yeah.
And I felt very much like, I suppose that's one of the things I've always said with Attwell's is, Attwell's would be a place where anyone can come.
Yeah.
And I want everyone to feel comfortable and relaxed to express themselves and be who they are. And I felt very much like that there was one culture, an old school culture there, as was the case in a lot of law firms at that time. And and I want Attwell's to be a place where everyone can feel relaxed and be a part of that culture. So I think that was quite challenging at the time. I think in my 20s as well, like my parents split up, which was a bit weird because parents normally start like when you're younger, or that's sort of what I thought.
Yeah.
And you sort of feel when you're in your like 20s or almost 30, you're like almost like well, you are an adult, and you're like, but still, it was quite hard. And it was particularly hard because I had a lot of support, and it's very odd for your dad to ask you for support because you're so used to your dad supporting you all the time.
Yeah.
So that was quite hard, and it was also quite hard because it split all my brothers and sisters, and their relationships all sort of fell apart as a result of that with my parents. And I tried really hard, and it's one of the things I'm very proud of to maintain relationships with everyone in my family. And I think that's really, really important. But that was quite a challenging time. And then probably like 2008, I'll just describe business-wise, because in 2008, so I started Attwell's in 2007, and in 2007 it was like the height of the property market, and we were about 90% conveyancing at that stage. We've changed it a lot since, but that was where we were then. And all of a sudden in February 2008, like the telephones, because it was all telephones, there wasn't that much email traffic going on at that stage. And all of a sudden, telephones just stopped ringing, and like we lost 40% of our business just overnight.
Really?
And I learned there really important lessons about cash is king, that you don't want your bank manager sitting around the table with you as one of your partners because you owe them a significant amount of money. And that when something like that happens, you must act. However difficult that is, you must act to effectively cut your cloth, accordingly. And that was a chastening sort of lesson really to have in 2008. But did at least give me a little bit of preparation for what was to come with the pandemic. Then I sort of would go forward to a few years after Attwell's had been going. I ended up having quite a few run-ins with my regulator because of the type of work that we had been doing. I think although I was successful in all of those with my regulator, it taught me to understand that a solicitor's practice in particular is a regulated business. We're a highly regulated business. And any entrepreneurialism, has to be, but therefore very much tempered by a sort of risk as well, and assessing clients and whether you want to take on those clients and whether they're too high risk clients or not. And I didn't understand all of that as a young sort of, whatever I was, late 20s, early 30s. I didn't have the experience to understand it. And my natural inclination was to want clients and want to win clients and not understand the risks of clients, which was particularly important in my sector. So that sort of slowed us down a lot, and I wish I'd understood that better. And then I sort of had quite an acrimonious divorce, sort of 6 or 7 years ago, and I struggled to get access to my older kids for some time, and I had to, and that made me realise for the first time. I think, if I'm honest, in my early stages of setting up Attwell's, I was very singly focused about the business. I love my kids to bits, but I wasn't putting the time in at home for them. And I think the younger generations are a lot better at getting this right, but I wasn't, and my marriage suffered as a result of that. And I think when I then was struggling to get access to them, I suddenly thought, hang on a minute, these are so important to me. And ended up with them living with me for long periods of that time after that, which was really nice. And they've always now been, for me, my priorities now are them. I think it took me that to realise the way it should really be. And that they're always top of my list now.
When it comes to relaxing or time away from the world of work, 'cause it's obviously very, very obvious that you're passionate about, your firm, but also the team that you're working with as well. But when you do have that time for yourself, what's your passions in life, or, how do you like to unwind?
I don't have much time is the problem. With 4 kids of all different age groups, I'm either, my good time for me now is spent with like my 17-year-old, watching the football or the motor racing or whatever he might want to go and do, and he's going to be 18 soon, taking him down the pub. That's what that's the sort of stuff I love doing with him. With my daughter, taking her to get her hair done. She's 15, 16, taking her to get her hair done, with my smaller two, Arlo and Jude, Jude's 3 and Arlo's 1, it might be, just sort of cradling them in your arms or playing, Paw Patrol with them or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
That is the best time. And then I think like socializing, getting back to getting out for dinner with my partner, with my business partners from work. We like to go out once a month as business partners. That's great.
Yeah.
It's really good to relate in that way and to have them as friends in that sense. So I like that. I try and do a bit of sport. I like to play badminton. I like all racket sports, but I'm not doing so much of it at the minute. But I'd like to do a bit more of that. But I think it's mostly family stuff and family time. It's a bit boring, I guess, in that sense.
No, if anything, it's quality time, and it sort of sounds that that you've missed out a couple of years there, and making up for lost time. So I completely understand where you're coming from, and I think you've got the right attitude to it as a parent as well. So yeah, I think it's great. But as we look to the future and a new year on the horizon in 2022, what would you say are your big plans for the future, whether that be from a business or you individually?
I think for the business, one of them is that we've recently, just in the last week, recruited a coder. IT is massive for the legal profession, and we've got our own sort of bespoke case management system that one of our business partners has written some of the code for, and she needs some help to do that. So we've recruited someone to help her, and that will make a big difference, because what I want Attwells to, people who work for Attwells to be able to say is we've got the best technical tools, IT tools available of any law firm of our size, or indeed bigger than our size locally, because the youngsters in particular, will not put up with sort of second-rate IT, and it's not good enough. They want, and I have a lot of respect for this sense. They want to, do their work for this period of time, but they therefore want to be damn productive for that period of time, and they can't do it if you don't give them the right tools. So one of our big challenges, we want to be able to say, our lawyers have got the best tools, available, in the local area. So I think that's sort of one of the big challenges. I think otherwise, at the minute, a challenge is sort of around recruitment and growth. So we feel like we can grow really as quickly as we can bring people in. So it's about, I don't think we've done a very good job about telling people who we are, why they should come to us, stories of the people who work here and have achieved fantastic things from different backgrounds. And I think we need to get that message out there so that people feel, this would be quite a nice place for us to come and work. So I need to get that message much better, out there to people. So I think working on that, we sort of feel like we can win as much work as we can, really. It's more about us having the right people, within the firm to be able to do that work for us. And I think from sort of my personal side is I'm sort of always looking to try to get I want to be able to grow with the business, but without dominating the business. So I want, as the business continues to grow, for me to be able to move on and elevate myself into a position where I'm using my skills the best, but also allowing people to come from beneath to take on, the running of the firm and other aspects of the firm that I may be involved with now. So I think over the next few years, I want to see myself getting involved maybe in doing more of the teaching side, which I enjoy, doing with our younger lawyers, and I think sort of like some of the communication stuff with people that I enjoy doing and helping to guide their careers, and I get a lot out of that. And maybe leaving some of the day-to-day running of it to other people with new ideas and fresh thought, and to be able to do that in a very positive way, and not to feel like something's being taken away from me or that I'm missing out in some way. So I want to play an active part in the business without sort of cramping its style and cramping its growth in any way.
Yeah, Nick, honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you and listen to your honesty, and thanks for so much for being so open and obviously coming on the podcast and giving us an insight into your world. So perhaps you'd like to tell our listeners where they can find Attwells online, where you're located and how the firm can help new clients.
Of course, yeah. So www.attwells.com is our website. You can find there all sort of, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn as well. So you can find us anywhere there too. Our 3 offices, Ipswich, Colchester, and North London, St John's Wood, is where our teams are based. and sort of, anybody who's into property in any way, we're a great fit for you.
Great. Thanks, Nick, for another fantastic episode on People Behind Brands. If you haven't already, make sure you're following us on Instagram and Twitter at podcastpbb, or search us on LinkedIn and Facebook at People Behind Brands Podcast. Join us next time for a brand new guest who will be providing their life lessons for the world of business.
So that's it for this episode of People Behind Brands. I'd love to hear from you all, so if you want to get in touch, follow us on our social media platforms. If you like what you heard, please rate and subscribe to our exclusive content now. Join us next time for a brand new guest on the podcast as we explore yet more life lessons from the world of business. We'll see you soon. Ta-da!